Hello everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. I'm joined once again by Steve as we continue our look into the Hammer horror franchise with The Mummy. Released in 1959, this movie tells of British archaeologists who find the open tomb of the Egyptian Princess Ananka with nefarious consequences. This film was made in a budget of £125,000 and brought in £855,000 at the box office. That was a bit of a tongue twister. Hi,
Yeah.
Steve. Welcome back, and forgive my dodgy intro there. I kind of
Was
last
that
episode.
your intro thing?
Yeah,
Was that a revised one there? Was it new or
I've one. Why is there something up with the shared document?
no? You know the intro, the music and everything. Slightly different, isn't it?
I've done that ages. I was done ages ago.
What was it?
Yeah, because I revamped everything.
Right, you didn't tell me.
I didn't make a big thing of it. I just did it.
No, just the first time I've really noticed it like that.
That was done earlier this year, like at the beginning. I think it's been going for a while because I just simplified everything down rather than having different intros for every section. I just have the one intro now and the one outro, and yeah, just tidied up. And I went through the whole merchandise store, revamped all the merch and everything else, and got better graphics done.
Yeah, don't worry about me. I've only just found out that Woolworth's closed.
Wilco's going to be a shock end for you.
Oh yeah. Elvis died, you know.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
There's people still denying that.
Yeah.
What age would they have been now, anyway?
He died in 77, didn't he? He'd be, oh God, 23, 43, 47.
He'd
be in his 90s, isn't he?
Yeah. There's people still convinced that he's kicking around the place and it was all conspiracy.
I actually saw him in B&Q the other day. Yeah, he returned to Sander. Someone rang me the other day and they said, do you want to either see an Elvis tribute act or have £1,000? He says, so ring this number and it's one for the money or two for the show. Bubba, should never say Elvis to me. It's not going too good.
People just start walking. You're walking around the street, somebody just starts poking in your head. Oh, I'm trying to swipe.
Yeah. Searching. The Mummy. Yeah.
The Mummy. Yes, 1959. I think it's still on the channel. I don't think it's more. I think it's going to be twice on the channel now. So there you go. I was looking through stuff, and I think I managed to see that particular stream. I thought that one had disappeared. Karen and I had talked about this like years ago.
Yeah. All right. I enjoyed it. I mean,
absolute classic. Terence Fisher does it again. You know what I mean? Another success at the box office.
Yeah.
The intro will make more sense when I get a new keyboard next week and I have keys that actually work.
I must have loved him because they brought him in on practically every horror film that they've done, didn't they? It's, he was the sort of Spielberg of horror in the 50s and 60s, wasn't he? He's whatever he touched seemed to turn to gold. So
yeah, and this was no different. Wildly successful film, and it still holds up.
Yeah. I think it's a lot better than some of the modern ones. Especially that Tom Cruise one was awful, wasn't it?
I still haven't seen that, and I don't know whether to put myself through it. Right, here's the question: is that a remake of the Brendan Fraser one?
No,
because people keep saying it's a reboot or something. What's it meant to be a reboot of?
Well, put it this way: it goes from being the Mummy to Jekyll and Hyde, doesn't it, or something like that? It's not a remake. It's an absolute atrocity. That's what it is. Tom Cruise should have stayed well away of going into that genre. But yeah, it's just not very good.
Yeah, he's stuck to what he knows. Action
But
flick.
I suppose the only similarity to the Brendan Fraser one is the sand exploding, and but it's just a mishmash of
Just
sort of
stuff.
stunts that go wrong. The story's confusing. Yeah, it's not very good at all. So we'll leave that one out of the equation.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah,
I
that's
think,
why we're going back in time, because we remember when films were actually good, not
yeah.
just.
I mean, when you got the old Boris Karloff ones, and even Christopher Lee is the mummy, you got a story background that is
Mhm.
believable. That they go slightly into Egypt and everything, and they're at the ruins digging. You go further up the field to Brendan Fraser, and it's just a comedy, isn't it?
Yeah. They're talking about doing another one of those,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
both coming back, later on in life, sort of thing. I think
yeah,
probably trying to pass the torch to a younger generation, but that's just all movies are now. Requel, prequel, reboot, rehash, reform, just bloody same shit, different package.
yeah. You only have to look at the Planet of the Apes, isn't it? They called it a trilogy. What
Then they made a
was
fourth one.
Rise, War, and the other one? And then suddenly they're bringing number 4, Kingdom of the Planet of the
That was
Apes, and you think
a
it's supposed
that
to
was
be
a
the
strange
trilogy.
movie.
Have you seen it? Have you?
Yeah,
Kingdom. Yeah,
it's
we
just a
haven't.
beautiful day, and it's and I'll not spoil it, but it's strange. They're almost trying to go back to the original Planet of the Apes, as it's set in the future,
Yeah,
but they've messed it up, and it's just
mm,
strange. Like it does not hold a coherent plot. It's
yeah,
all member berries, and it's all set pieces, and just
mm,
exposition and just people monologuing in the cameras and stuff, and it's just yeah.
mm. Yeah. But I mean, this mummy, I thought it was. I love the old Hammer horror anyway, but I thought it was atmospheric and kept to the old sort of mummy style of the 30s mummies that were out, and kept the Egyptian theme, and it wasn't too much like your Brendan Fraser one was. It's sort of
That was
uh,
just Disney though. That's just
yeah,
pure Disney shite.
but I read Christopher Lee's walk as the mummy wasn't totally acting, because he, in the scene where he comes out of the, after his crate gets dumped in the swamp,
Hmm.
he actually got hurt in that scene, and he was actually walking after that quite stiffly. And this is what I read on it. So when it's always, it wasn't totally acting his walk as the mummy, because he carried on going after being injured. So
Well, of course
as
he
he would,
would. Yeah.
as he would. But yeah, so yeah,
But it's interesting. Having him as the mummy was an interesting choice, because when he's in the outfit, you can barely recognize him.
well, it was a bit like that on Frankenstein, wasn't it?
He's a bit more recognizable in Frankenstein.
Yeah,
But this, they could have had anybody
yeah,
playing
yeah.
the mummy. But the fact that Christopher Lee didn't feel like he's too big for his britches, so to
Be
speak,
putting bandages.
that he'd hide himself, even though he does play that, we do the backstory
Yeah,
um of Karis, but
I,
still the fact that he'd play that sort of role, being as
yeah.
well known as he was even back then, because
You
he'd already
see,
done Dracula,
Oh yeah, I mean, but then you consider in the original Dracula, he didn't really have much of a presence, did he? As in much to say, so he didn't really. Yes, he was Dracula, and I think that was his piece de resistance in the end. Was he was Dracula? We
I don't think
discussed
it's
this, who the best Dracula was back along, and but in the first Dracula that he was in, he didn't have a lot of dialogue. Um, as such, really, he didn't have many lines.
it'll be interesting when we move forward
Didn't really care.
and sort of see how it's progressed. It's all right at the time and them always being in the zeitgeist, if that makes sense. But now going back after so long and just seeing them in order as they come out and the more critical eye, it'd be interesting to see how it's progressed.
Yeah.
But still, he's still a recognizable name.
Yeah.
At this point, it's interesting the fact that he's almost second fiddle to Peter Cushing.
Yeah.
Peter Cushing has established himself earlier than Christopher Lee.
Yeah. Even Peter Cushing didn't really care whether he was in lead actor roles or he was just the sort of supporting actor or the supporting actor.
Yeah, it's a completely different. You wouldn't get this today.
If they had said to Peter Cushing, "You're the mummy," he wouldn't have cared. He would have put the bandage suit on, just as much as Christopher Lee did.
Yeah, it was just a role, and they'd give it the best. And I miss that. I think we've talked about this a lot, but I miss that attitude.
Yeah,
I miss that level of professionalism and love of the art.
because actors today they'd see it as a, oh God, there'd be World War III, wouldn't there? If you said to, Tom Cruise, oh, you're going to be just in the background, sort of thing, as a mummy in a coffin.
Oh, he couldn't do that, guys. I
He's
do not like that man.
He's only about 5'2", isn't he? Something like
that. The Angry Man syndrome. No, sure. What was that comedy he did? And he put a fat suit and all on, but he just couldn't. He couldn't be a background character. He just doesn't have it in him. Sure. What was that other? When they brought back all the action heroes, the Expendables.
Oh, right.
It was okay for the first one, but by the second one, they'd all fallen out with each other because of their egos.
Yeah.
And it just fell off. They had a chance there to keep going and have a bit of fun. And they just about managed to stomach each other for the first one. And sure enough, by the time the second movie came out, they'd all fallen apart because their egos are so entrenched that they just couldn't be in each other's spaces for too long.
Yeah.
And I'd say it's the 80s that really brought that about, that sort of ego nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But that's the thing anyway. When he went in the swamp, he hurt himself because the swamp was all it was. If you have a look, it's the normal 50s Hammer horror thing where you can, if you look closer enough, you can tell it's in a studio because of the sky in the background is just.
Yeah, you can tell us this. And like even the Egyptian scenes in a studio, you know.
Yeah, they were saying in the pool where the box went, that was on the back of the carriage, and he came out when the Egyptian guy summoned him, and it appears that he got hurt on that scene somewhere, and from then on he was walking funny. But
he just used it.
I think he pulled it off a treat, getting injured because that's he was walking exactly how you'd expect something like a mummy to do. But
and that's once again, you wouldn't get that today.
No.
And it's just using, okay, this has happened, I'm making the best of it.
Yeah.
And cracking on, because the important thing is getting this thing made. And like as Christopher Lee himself said, there's always a chance, it's just a matter of numbers, you're going to end up in a bad movie. The trick is not to be bad in them.
Yeah.
And I think the mud as well, that putting him in the mud actually helped. And I don't know whether it was intentional, because if he had just, like when he went into the sarcophagus as the mummy, it was all wrapped up in nice and bright brand new linen.
Yeah.
There's no real way, I think, back then to age it without it
No.
looking awful. So using the mud was a brilliant stroke of genius. Okay, how do we make this thing look horror and dirty down as if he's been there for 1,000 years? Well, let's dunk him in a swamp, cover him in mud, and sure enough, it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. The of course, it was a biggie. I've got to mention this mistake because it was a biggie. Was the surveyor's tripod in one of the opening scenes in Egypt? They had a surveyor's tripod with the little surveying camera on top, and considering it was supposed to be in 1895, and those surveyors' tripods weren't actually invented until 1936. It was a bit of a naughty one, really, but unless you knew things like that.
Yeah, but that was if you think about the era, like anybody can look anything up now.
Yeah.
But back then, if you weren't a surveyor, what would you know?
I know. It was something we did at school, and on inventions and everything, and I just something came up about these tripods, and I think it started off with camera tripods, but then they went on to tripods and looked up at the things, and it was 1930s, and then I saw this tripod 1895 up there, and it just came back to me at school. Whoa, hold on. Naughty.
This is no use whatsoever in my life until now.
Yeah. It's like learning Latin, isn't it? Yeah, God, they made us learn Latin at my school.
I wish I'd learned Latin because I tried to do biology and found the pub instead.
Yeah.
That's why my A levels didn't go as well as I thought. Scraped through.
Yeah.
I always like the mythology of mummies, horror villain, because there's more realism to them, vampires, werewolves, and so much mystery involved in pyramid. Yeah, and that actually, funny enough, that's brought up in this movie. The sort of Twitch is alive. Hello, boys 515. Greetings. Yeah, and Twitch, we're getting multi-platform tonight. People coming from all over. Right, Facebook, you need to catch up. You're falling behind. Yeah, so they actually had the discussion about, are they preserving history or are they raiding tombs?
Yeah.
And it wasn't that, it was basically individuals who got permission off the government to, go and find these ruins. And sure enough, if you think of stuff being buried under rubble, eventually it's going to, something's going to cave in, going to get destroyed, lost forever.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole discussion today, but I don't want to get into it because obviously it's a lot of people just shitstorm, not actually want to have a discussion whether it's worthwhile or not. But it was interesting that even in the 50s, it was brought up as is this the right thing to do? And arguments were made for both sides. But importantly, you weren't told what to think.
Yeah. But
argument was presented for going in, preserving them. Argument was presented for this is desecration, don't do it. And the audience are left to make up their own mind as to how you feel about it.
Yeah. I think because the Egyptians are very sort of up on they love their own sort of tombs and things like that, don't they? And they've got a lot of rules as to what you can and can't do if you actually go down one there. We went down to see the tomb of Tutankhamun when we were in Egypt. That was supposedly found by was it a camel or a horse accidentally stepped in a groove on the ground, and they actually found opened up a gap, and it was actually Tutankhamun's tomb found by a horse, I think it was. But they're very a bit like the patriotic is probably the wrong word. They love their tombs and everything, and they've got certain rules. One because Tutankhamun's tomb was underground, you weren't allowed because of all the paintwork had to be preserved and everything. You weren't allowed to take photos down there or videos.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was brought across. What was the name of that guy? The guy in the Fez.
Oh God.
What was he called? Mehmet Bey, George Pastel.
Yeah.
Mehmet Bey. He was. When I saw him, I instantly thought of Tommy Cooper because of the face.
Yeah.
This sort of brought across in the story as well how the Egyptians adored their own relics, and they didn't want other people to sort of have them, did they? And have access to them, and
But
they
the
wanted
debate was that
keep their own history.
yeah, but the debate was they didn't have the infrastructure to maintain it,
No,
so it would have been lost.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like I said, I just like the way that the conversations had. Both sides of the debate are put forward, and you're left as the audience member to make up your own mind rather than being preached to.
Yeah.
I miss that. And
Yeah.
you can flip flop between one or the other. Oh, well, actually, yeah, that's a good point. No, that's a good point. You know, and it's up to yourself, and you're treated with respect as if you have some intelligence.
Yeah.
And trusted to have an opinion, you know, which is none of that's today. You know exactly the way this conversation would go today. It'd be one sided, preachy, horrible, you know, you name it.
Yeah, we're having it tough.
But also, how does Peter Cushing manage to look older than his father and his uncle?
I don't know because I checked.
He's a young man. He's supposed to be a young man, but
his father, the guy who played his father, I checked on this, is actually 24 years older than Peter Cushing. But yeah, in real life. I thought, oh my God, Peter Cushing, you look older than your father. But there is a difference of 24 years.
but he's always looked like that. That was the thing as well. You didn't work like Peter Cushing was no heartthrob, you know, as in the traditional sense.
No.
Neither was Christopher Lee, you know. I mean, he's a big gangly person.
Yeah.
They were never, you know, done the weights or any of that kind of nonsense, or you know, were sex symbols or anything. They just played roles, and yes, they had interesting features. They were memorable, but it was never about that. Like he's always looked that age, and he's always, even as he got older, he's never really changed.
But there were very few sex symbols back then, were they?
Yeah, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a requirement.
James Dean, didn't you? And Marlon Brando, but there were nothing like today. The girls go head over heels for, I don't know, Justin Bieber or.
God, I don't even think he's the same now. Or what is he now?
No, but
whatever, you know. But then it was maybe a contributing factor, but now it's the only factor.
Yeah,
which is really like there's nothing else to them.
No, because if I was talking, my mum would say to me, "Oh, there's a film on tonight with Christopher Lee. Oh, he's a brilliant actor." My mum used to idolise Brian Blessed in Z Cars. And
Gordon's alive.
Yeah, and she used to like him. She used to like Edward Woodward, Callum. And there was no like sex symbolism about actors back then. They were all brilliant actors.
Yeah. And even the ladies, look at like so Shirley Temple and so forth. They weren't. I mean, they were beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, Marilyn Monroe as well. When she did a glamour shot, she still had stretch marks and everything. They weren't hot or set. They had a glamour about them, but they weren't really.
I was in love
today.
With Julie Andrews.
Oh God, yeah.
Julie Andrews, Sound of Music.
But that's what I mean. It was a different standard, and there was talent. There, you respected them more than anything else.
Yeah.
But something obviously changed, and I think it was around about the 80s that they just became just pumped up at the gym and It was all about aesthetics rather than ability, and then people like teen bands, like you said, people just going and actually not.
I think it happens in more than films. You're talking. If you look at the wrestling,
Oh God, please no.
now the
Yeah.
old style wrestling with Big Daddy and everything.
Jan Haystacks and all that kind of stuff. My granny loved that stuff.
Yeah, I went to see him with my Auntie Vi. My great Auntie Vi. She used to be called Umbrella Vi because as the wrestlers used to come out at Plymouth Guildhall, if they were nasty like Giant Haystack, she'd hit them with her umbrella. And they used to turn and say to her, Vi, don't hit me with that bloody umbrella, and they used to take it quite funny because she was partially blind. And it was hilarious. But back then, they weren't super fit people. You look at John Haystack, he was like, what, 40 odd stone, wasn't he? Something like that.
Yeah, he's a big unit, like.
And in a lot of the wrestlers, you're talking your Les Kellets and your Mick McManus, they were quite tubby, be like me wrestling for WWE. But these days they've got to have muscles and everything, and if they haven't got muscles but they want to stay with them, Vince McMahon, says you've got to go in the gym and you've got to look good and everything. And I think it's the same sort of principle with the actors. Exactly what you've been saying. It was around about the same time they were saying to these actors, "Oh no, you can't be just plain actor, who just stars in any movie. You've got to be, you've got to look good and wear all this bloody makeup and everything and
at the roids, whatever,
I mean, 10 out of 10 to the actors who play the part by either losing or putting on weight. If you take Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, for instance,
or Christian Bale, The Machinist.
Yeah, and Tom Hanks went on a diet of really like salad for the whole part of the film. They had to film each scene in order because of his weight loss, to do with the AIDS thing. 10 out of 10 to actors who do that sort of thing, and I think that's totally the opposite to them saying, "Oh, you've got to look pretty, you've got to look muscly, you've got to do this in order to be in this film."
Well, if you look at this cast, maybe we can get a look into that.
Yeah.
I mean, once that paradigm shifted, maybe we didn't get a look in.
No.
Because it's just not, I'm not saying it's definitely not better because, like, filmmaking has went down the toilet. I've been kind of documenting this as we go along the podcast. We're not getting better movies because of it.
No, because you're not getting the experience because the experienced actors are not the norm of today. They're not, they're not your super models or, your muscly guys, and your experienced actors are the ones that they. Christopher Lee, I suppose he was in Lord of the Rings, wasn't he? And so he was wanted in. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's obvious this is all stage set as well. If you think about the production of this,
yeah,
moving
scenery,
yeah.
You see,
like when they're taking the donkeys and all moving in the back of the desert, they're going out off stage. They're literally going off stage.
Yeah,
it is like we're still going through this transition between a theater, a play theater where you play in front of an audience,
and
a movie set. We're still seeing this shift, and still seeing the effort.
Just imagine the sort of the studio that is set in, and they're quickly changing all the props around to fit the next scene in and things like that. It's I saw have you ever seen the film Hitchcock? Just Hitchcock, about Sir Alfred Hitchcock, around the time that he wanted to produce Psycho, and they actually show.
I think I have, but I can't remember.
They actually show the studio bits where he actually films the scenes and how they had to change them around and everything like that, and just the backdrops and everything. Like I said, the sky. You got the plain backdrop of the sky in these, which tells you it's in the studio. Now, you and I wouldn't care about that because you look past that, you look through that.
You suspend disbelief. That was the whole point of these movies. You switch
Yeah,
off that part of your brain because you're there for an experience, and also think about the time period. This is all groundbreaking stuff.
yeah,
Like, this is
yeah,
all brand new experience.
yeah.
Going from the stage, the
Because
moving pictures,
if you
silent
were if
movies.
you were in 1959 and this came on, if you hadn't seen the old Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi movies, from the 30s, then this would have been completely new to you. So and this would have scared you. This sort of thing. Oh bloody hell! A mummy coming out of an Egyptian tomb and coming around killing everybody.
And like I said, I think the cleverest decision they made was actually dunking him in the swamp.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
don't know where that came from, the idea, but it worked. And it would have been a completely different movie. If you look at God, it's been years, but if you look at the Boris Karloff one,
yeah,
very clean and neat. I know it's in black and white, but you know,
yeah.
not the same. Where this give it a more visceral, same as Frankenstein's monster. Look at Boris Karloff again, Frankenstein's monster.
Things
Once
on
again,
his
yeah,
coat.
but
Yeah,
still very neat and tidy
square head.
and plastic.
Yeah,
Look at Christopher Lee's version of it. It looked like you would imagine a human body
a
had been
human being sewn together.
sewn
Yeah,
together. You actually got that
yeah,
look from it.
yeah.
And that's where Hammer Horror took us to the next level. And
Just
like you're saying, this would have terrified people back in the day.
yeah.
We'd look
Now,
at it now and go, nah, but it's them.
see, that could go the other way because I remember when I saw that as a kid, and I first saw the old Boris Karloff Frankenstein's. Used to think they were brilliant, and then I saw the Christopher Lee one, and when you're younger, you think, well, that's not Frankenstein. That's Frankenstein's got bolts in his neck and got a
Yeah.
square head. But yeah, it isn't until you get the maturity of someone and that you see that there's a positive difference in things like that, and the mummy being covered in mud, you know, in this day and age, they would have put him in that mud. He would have come out, and then two scenes down the line, all the mud would have disappeared, and he'd be white again, you know. And it was pure class to see and think of that. So,
Yeah, and that it's that level of detail when you realize what they're doing, especially when you're reviewing things.
yeah,
You see the effort they put in, and that's just a minuscule thing. They didn't have to do it, didn't have to keep it going. It could have been all tidied up once he went back into Muhammad's
yeah,
house,
yeah.
but it didn't. He was left like that, and it was just left the cake on. And I don't know how many times he had to take that costume on and put it back on again. But
Did you see the sort of attachment at the back where one of the scenes shows it perfectly, where the bandages were all undone, and it was like a thing that like a Velcro type thing that just pulled it off his back, sort of thing, you know.
yeah, you can imagine being a suit that he stepped into. But
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's and you could actually see the on his back where it actually went on, but because if it was pure bandages, they would have just been wrapped round and round and round. But this was actually like a Velcro thing where they go
yeah,
like that, you know. And,
which is clever.
yeah,
You know, this is all groundbreaking stuff back in the day.
yeah.
It would be CGI now and it would look awful.
Oh,
Let's go back to the Mummy, the Brendan Fraser ones.
yeah,
Like that was so CGI. It was like it was beating you over the head that it was a cartoon,
yeah, yeah,
and you're just like, I know what it's for families. It's meant to be just a bit of a thrill for families and stuff. Like shouldn't pan on it too hard because they were enjoyable in their own right back in the day.
Yeah.
They're not horror. That's it's just an
They
adventure
were more of
series.
a comedy, wasn't it?
Yeah, more of a comedy adventure.
Yeah. I mean, give the first one with Brandon Fraser in. I thought it was the chemistry between the actors was brilliant, and that's what made the film.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz. Yeah, she's coming back too. Apparently for the next
Two of
one.
them were just hitting off each other. When when he gave her a kiss and everything when she went to rescue him, and then the guy, was it Benny, wasn't it, who wanted all the treasure, and he got eaten by the little buggy things. Didn't he?
Well, cool kept that going. I mean, like I said, it has its own merits.
Yeah.
But this really went out for the horror side of things.
Oh yeah.
Like this
yeah.
was set out to unnerve you.
Yeah, in 1959. This was pure horror.
We're going to have to do the Tingler. We're going to have to slot it in. I know it's not under the Hammer Horror, but we'll have to do it another day. Somebody's been commenting, mentioning it, and somebody else has commented somewhere else mentioning it. And it's like, yeah, the Tingler with Vincent Price. We're going to have to do that off, not in our usual Monday while we're doing this series, but we're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Sometime because that's come up now. It's like the universe is speaking to me to watch it again.
I've never seen it. I don't think I have.
You bound to have.
I must have.
Yeah,
I have. Long time ago.
Tingler. You can't be in the classic horror and not have seen the Tingler. That's a absolute.
I think it was a long time ago I saw it. Sure, it was.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
God, what was that? I was around about this time it came out. Like it wasn't. I don't think it was in the 60s. I think it was like late 50s. Or maybe early 60s, maybe in 62, 63. Need to look it up.
The Tingler, 1959.
59, there you go, same year.
Same year.
Once again, Vincent Price is snapping at the heels of his betters.
Director William Castle. Now, he's another one that's done a lot of horror films, isn't it? William Castle. Yeah, that's all right.
The tomb itself, and there wasn't a drop of sand. It was very well maintained. Like, have you ever seen them excavating proper tombs? Like, they're dusty, they're horrible. I mean, they're just one step away from collapsing. And this was just beautiful, and you're like,
yeah, very tidy, wasn't it?
It's the tidiest tomb ever. Like the cleaner comes in. I think Karras went round once a week. That was part of his punishment. He was to go around with a, you know what I mean? When in his cupboard is basically there's a mop and a brush, and he has to go around every week, and
Yeah. But even the sort of when they were demonstrating how they buried the girl, did her funeral type of thing. All the carry things and everything you could tell they were just spotless. You could tell they looked like nude, didn't they? That they were that.
Well, the paint was barely dry on it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But once again, this is all a progression. We can sit and laugh at it, but we're seeing early cinema. We're seeing the development of the movie. This is still in the mindset of this is a stage play. And we've still got that element coming through.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious. Like, you put that in front of a theatre audience and you wouldn't tell, coming into certain scenes. Imagine trying to do that, though, as a production. You would need a rotating stage. At the end of Act 1, curtains closed. Crank wheel that. Because there's no way you're brushing all that sand up in between.
Oh, God. Hell, isn't it?
But still, you could still imagine this being on the end of a stage and an audience sitting watching it live. It's there, and that's fine because you have to start somewhere. Things don't just become what they become. It's all a progression. So I wasn't really. Once again, we can point the things out, but I'm not hating on the movie because of it. It's not ruined my enjoyment.
Oh no, and it's something like if you're more interested in the story and how it's, then you don't really take much notice. There were a couple of shots in there where the scenery actually moved when they banged, and a wall moved and things like that. And you just think back to the times of the old Crossroads soap when they used to slam the door and the scenery used to go.
Oh
Like
God, yes, that or Prisoner's Cell Block H. They were the absolute classics back in the day. Just oh dear.
But you think working on a budget of £125,000, by the time they paid the actors, they couldn't have had a lot left for the scenery anyway, could they? Really?
No, and plus also limits of the time.
Yeah.
Like you weren't like it doesn't matter how much you were spending. You didn't have the technology we do now. Well, there's a movie I did yesterday, The Crow, City of Angels.
Yeah.
Set in the 90s, and it looks worse than this.
Yeah.
The stage sets they built for that movie look worse than this.
Yeah. Well,
and that was on a budget of 23 million.
Yeah.
Sorry, 26 million. 26 million, and that movie looks worse than this on a budget of 20-odd thousand.
I watched some of these films. I think of an old school play we did, and we actually made rocks out of foam, and we had them all painted and everything. And we were one scene where they had to throw the rocks. It was a religious Christmassy type thing, and or pre-Christmas, all about Christ and Stonehenge and stuff like that. But I think we made better rocks back then out of polystyrene than some of these bloody scenes that you get in some of these movies these days. But
oh, absolutely! Like some of them are just they're not even funny bad. They're just cringe. You're just like, what the hell? So yeah, I can forgive a lot of things with this. Yeah, it's good to notice, but I'm looking at it from a historical point of view, the evolution of cinema. That's what I'm looking at these from, and just seeing how the techniques have built up. And as we go along further in this series, I think we'll see more and more, especially as Hammer horror, like it's established back then, it's a thing. But it really wasn't until the Satanic Rites of Dracula, was it Witchfinder General?
Yeah.
Those sort of movies where Hammer horror was horror. They dwarfed anything else. There was nobody else got a look in. Like even the Universal monsters, they disappeared into the background. Hammer horror was, if you thought of horror in the 50s and 60s, it was this company.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, as we go along this journey, we'll see how the sets get more elaborate and the gothic look that they're already trying to bring here.
And they do start to use sort of outside scenery, like Dracula, whereas it used to be a set before for the castle. It suddenly goes and there's an outside shot of an old church type thing, and there's a lot of it. They tend to go a bit outside, don't they, of the old?
Yeah, but once again, that's just the ability to do things.
Yeah.
The finances to do it, the brand that people would want you to come and do it because what you're going to shoot a Hammer horror here? Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than you're some random filmmakers, go away.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the power of the brand and reputation opens doors.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen overnight, you have to build it up. It's just interesting to go back and seeing this happening.
Yeah.
The thing about the Hammer horror as well, I have this strange, quirky comedy. They brought it in here as well, and we've seen it a couple of times. Like the pub scene.
Oh yeah,
was just comedy.
Yeah,
and you're kind of like,
and the two guys who were transporting the
transporting basically the mummy, the Muhammad.
Man's best friend is his horse. It's a dog. No, it's not. It's a horse. I thought, oh, that's brilliant.
But what do? You're on a job. I know. I'll stop by the pub and I'll get absolutely leathered.
Yeah.
Before finishing the job, not do the job first, then go back to the pub.
And just leave this thing full of priceless Egyptian relics on the back of the carriage. Like, I mean, in this day and age, it would have been stolen.
Or would have been gone.
Sold on eBay by now.
Well, sure, you couldn't even leave it. You know, the horse would have been eaten, and the flipping wheels would have been off the carriage, and just everything.
Yeah.
Especially in bloody London, freaking hell. Yeah, but yeah, that's what you do. You stop off, you get absolutely tanked up.
Wasn't even tied down, was it?
No, because they even said it. They even brought that up. Do you want to tie it down? Nah, it's only up the road.
Who cares?
And then Banning, the father screams in the asylum, and that's all it took was to set them off. You're like, all right.
It's a loud scream.
Once again, you're not getting any sense of that's my only complaint about these sort of movies. You have no sense of scale or time.
Yeah.
And it's sort of mentioned, obviously, David wasn't his first name. John, sorry. John couldn't actually go into the tomb himself because he had managed to bust up his leg.
His leg, yeah.
But his father went in and obviously. This is the first we get a flashback because we don't actually see what happens.
No.
Which was interesting because we've never had a flashback before in these sort of movies.
No. He reads the script, doesn't he? And the mummy comes out of the.
Because that's what you do. What's one of the first lessons of horror movies?
Never.
Don't read the ancient script in strange language out loud.
Yeah,
and right. Especially if it's made on human flesh and written in blood, you don't read it out loud.
And the other one is, no matter how fast you run, the nasty man who's walking behind you will always catch you.
Absolutely. These rules are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Keep you safe. So if you ever come across an ancient script, don't be tempted to go blah, 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 because you're going to invoke something and it's going to come and it's going to do nasty things to you. Yeah. That's them's the rules. We didn't make them. Supernatural Council did. We just got to behave ourselves.
Yeah, it's like seeing a sign that says wet paint and you just got to go like that to check And they always no matter how many times you've killed them, they always come back to life, don't they?
That's because you don't hit them you only hit them once or twice, and then you pat them. You're meant to hit them 25 times minimum.
Yeah,
that's the rules. Once again, even back then, because everyone thinks these rules were established in the 80s, but no, this has been a core of horror.
Going for years, isn't it?
Years. All these rules just subtly woven in.
Yeah.
It's the same as why horror. We had a whole discussion. Check it out, folks. Morality in horror, and it's all about the stories behind it and why horror resonates and why they're the first stories to be told. From we crawled out of caves and beat each other around the head with rocks. There's a reason why don't stray away from the campfire, don't go off the path, blah blah blah. It was to keep us idiots alive.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's the thing actually with Muhammad, because he tied together. He could have given a whole exposition dump, explaining everything, but he didn't. He tied it into his prayer.
Yeah.
So he's able to explain what he's doing, and it's a plot device. But by reading out the incantation, he's also explained to the audience what's happening. And once again, people aren't even that remotely clever today.
No.
They'll stop the whole film. They'll pause the momentum and they'll give you an exposition dump. Then they'll try and restart the movie again and carry on. We're even in the 1950s. The twigged on, hold on, we don't have time for this. How do we make this as efficient as possible so that the audience are confused and the plot carries forward?
Yeah.
And that prayer scene, he's reading out the incantation, but he's also given a prayer as well. Explains everything. What's going to happen, so you're on board. You're not confused. You know exactly what they've done. We've had the sort of encounter. This is the basics of storytelling.
Yeah, definitely. The couple of times when the girl, what was her name? Ananka, Princess
Yeah.
Ananka, when she was breathing well, even though she was supposed to have been dead.
Caught that a couple of times. That is, I've picked that up in a couple of movies now. I mean, the corpse is down there, and then or the eyelid flutters.
The eyelids flutter, yeah,
And actually, it was worse for her because she had the blue makeup on.
yeah. So you can
So
easily see it.
when her eyelids fluttered, you really saw it because she
Yeah,
had the blue and the gold. And so once the eyelids flicked, that was it.
mm,
You saw it.
yeah,
I like the way as well that they had her completely nude, and then the cleverly used the posts, the like hide her boobs and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
It was so cleverly done.
yeah.
You know, just setting up the camera. How did they know to do that? Because it wasn't like digital camera. You know, you move slightly left to right and you've exposed everything. And it's
Yeah,
on old style film, and that was not cheap. And you basically you'd one chance to get the shot right. There wasn't these multiple reshoots
no.
that you
You,
have now.
you can even at times, if you look at Christopher Lee's mummy, you can actually tell he was wearing underpants.
I tell you
Yeah,
one thing he did do really well is when he came out of the swamp the first time, he still had his arms crossed,
yeah, yeah.
and he didn't unfold his arms till he was on the bank.
It makes me wonder if that's how he got injured. Because I don't know. Perhaps he was walking out the swamp, he had his arms crossed, and he toppled.
He's obviously coped in or something
Don't know
because
what the injury was, but they said that he injured himself quite a lot. It hurt his back.
they didn't
Um,
have him in the
coming
box.
out of the
No way
swamp.
did they have him in the box.
No, well, no, because the box went bang. Didn't it? But it was it's something to do with the tank that it was filmed in or something. So I can
He
find it.
slipped. He has to. Like you picture, you've no balance if you're doing that, and you're walking in water, and then you're trying to negotiate a set of steps. Yeah, I think it's probably during then.
Uh, besides the injuries to his back and shoulder gained during the filming, he also injured his knees and shins while doing scenes in the studio tank swamp. He could see where he couldn't see where the various pipes and fittings under the swampy water were. So
Oh god. Oh, ow. They're the worst. Have you ever? I'm sure you have. You had no crack in the shins.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my god, that is
plenty of
painful.
times. Um,
Dunk.
I actually had a memory come up on social media of me with plasters all over my shins. It wasn't through pipes. I was trimming the grass. I trimmed my shins.
Oh,
And yeah, I had these bloody great plasters all over my shins. It actually came up the other day on social media memories, but yeah, so I know exactly how he feels, um, banging into shins because that's the worst bit that you can injure is a shin. It's
oh
the
yeah.
killer that. So yeah, he so that's what he did he hurt himself quite badly and that's why he was walking like he did. It wasn't entirely acting, it said. So,
No,
um,
once again, he used it to his advantage. So flipping fair play to him. Like, I don't think people realize what a physical actor Christopher Lee was.
yeah,
No ropes and wires, and even like we'll go back to Dracula, him running, sprinted up them bloody stairs
yeah,
in the castle. Like, imagine getting those in the shin, those
yeah,
uh stone steps.
yeah.
Ooh, no,
Christopher Lee also dislocated his shoulder, breaking down one of the doors um, when he was after one of the characters. So he got quite injured in this one by
yeah.
sounds of it.
But he
Uh,
threw himself in the role. You know what I mean? He's a physical actor.
these days they cancel the shoot
Oh
for
yeah, or the stunt
months.
double would do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? They wouldn't even be in this. They'd be the stunt double would be doing all that stuff,
Mm,
and the actor would be there on screen to like pity.
yeah.
You're just like, no, they did it themselves. They They threw themselves in, took the chances,
Yeah.
and you know what? Movies were better for it. And at the end of the day, there was a line they never seriously injured. You know, there was always a risk, but they were never put in danger because obviously the studios aren't stupid either. They knew the like wiping out their cast wasn't going to be a good idea.
Yeah. It's,
Uh,
the problem with stunt doubles of today's age is if you with the increase in technology of Blu-ray and HD and everything, if you can actually get the scene where they change over, you can actually see if you pause it quick enough, you can actually
mhm.
see one's a stunt double. Oh, it goes back to, especially if you know that they don't do their own stunts.
Oh, I've seen that all the time. Like whenever I've called it out in loads of movies, when
Yeah,
they've got their head bowed down and they've got you only see the top of their head, and you know it's a stunt double.
yeah,
God, what was that? There was the Wasteland I reviewed with a guy called Clay.
yeah,
So I've been on the show a couple of times. It's only a wee boy. You know the main character's a wee boy, and they're the same where he's pushing a cart. And you're like, no mission on this earth is he pushing that cart. And sure
yeah.
enough, it's an adult. You know, he's wearing like a cloak or something, and it's an adult. You can tell it's a fully formed adult, even the way he's holding the chair. And they bring the camera down, and then all of a sudden it goes to this like 10-year-old boy, and you're like, nah. Uh, just takes you out loads of times. But the fact is, once again, they're prepared to put themselves out.
Yeah,
And at this point, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing are massive names. They're not even B-list actors; they're massive names,
yeah,
household names,
yeah,
and they're prepared to do this for the role.
yeah.
What does that tell you about the standard today? Like things have not got better.
You probably wouldn't have seen them go, right, I'm suing you. It would have just been, oh, it's one of the things about acting.
Yeah,
It's
it's part of it, but I want the
hazards,
scene to look good. I
hazards of
want,
the job, isn't it? It's
yeah.
you didn't have. Have you been had an accident in the past 5 years? Back then, did you?
Well, that's all Americanism. That's all that stuff's come over the
Yeah.
pond here, and it's like, remember we used to look at it from afar and go, God, imagine that being over here. That'd be horrible. Now it is. And like, oh God, why?
Have you walked 500 miles? Have you been told you have to walk 500 more? You may be entitled to compensation. Call the proclaimers now.
Wah wah wah. Yeah. No, they were prepared to do it just purely for the scene. They wanted the scene to go right. There was almost like an atmosphere of collaboration.
Yeah.
They weren't paid to just turn up. They were part of the movie. They were investing their own names in this as much as the company.
Mm.
Where now if a movie goes bad, the actor's like, yeah, well, my fault. I did what I was told. Where you get a sense that everybody that took part in this was invested in making a good product.
Mm. Yeah.
And it translates on the screen. The fact that flipping
I think
70 years later, we can still watch it and
it was
talk about it and enjoy it.
more of a case of I've been employed um, to be in this movie, and in order to be employed a bit more, I've got to give this movie my best and make sure it's a success.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas today, actors will go, hold on, I've got 20 million quid for this movie. I don't give a damn if it's a flop. I've got 20 million quid, Um, uh, yeah,
But then their lifestyles, they need another 20 million before too long. Like, look at all the older actors coming out of the woodwork now because they've been spending their money. It's all dried up. They haven't made good investments. Now they're trying to be in everything
yeah.
and get relevant again. It's like, nah, you had your chance. The whole flashback scene to Karis and given the whole story of his forbidden love for
Yeah,
Ananka, and even the whole barrel scene, it was all there was a ritualistic side to it, but I can't quite put my finger on it. It's almost like it was a dream as opposed to being acted out. Because if
yeah,
you think of just the way like he accepted his fate, he's getting his tongue pulled out, and you're so calm about
yeah,
it. Like I wouldn't be calm. If somebody's going
yeah,
to rip my tongue out, I'd be kind of freaking out a bit.
yeah. while you're on that subject, the horror back when I was a kid of seeing it. I mean, you didn't actually see them rip his tongue out, but you do because you see it in there, don't you?
Yeah, the idea is planted.
God, they're ripping his tongue out, and it's quite horrific, really, from that sort of era, wasn't it?
Well, the
It's
human sacrifice as well. All the handmaids that line up and it's all ritualistic and they just accept their fate. It's all part of the, you know, religious fervor. Their beliefs are that ingrained. They do genuinely believe they're going to the other side
yeah,
to continue their service.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just how calmly it was all done. Give that sense that it was a dream rather than actual happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was intentional or not, or just the style of acting.
Mm. It's probably the style of acting back there, because I mean, back then actors used to be able to suggest things, didn't they? If they didn't think something was right or wrong, whereas today's actors would blow their tops and have a
Well, that's what I was saying. It's more
bit
of
of a
a
baby because throw their toys out the pram
mhm.
because they want something to go one way and the director and the producers are saying no, it's going to go this way. But back then it wouldn't have been as aggressive as for an actor to say, oh, don't you think that this would be better this way? What do you think? And I think yeah,
Well,
because
that's what I'm saying. There's more of a sense of collaboration that everyone was working together to make the
yeah,
best product possible, the best movie possible. They wanted it. There was a genuine desire from all on board to make
yeah,
this thing good.
mm,
And you feel it, when you're watching this, you do get that feeling. Like a lot of these movies, you get that feeling. They want you to enjoy yourself. They want you to come back.
yeah,
Where today they just don't care, and it really does translate.
yeah.
And I think that's why there's so much
The
apathy.
the actors, even I suppose, even the producers and directors, they don't care because they're getting paid.
Mhm.
And
They think the
we're
money grows in trees and that the audience are stupid and they'll just turn up
yeah, and
and
they're
they don't.
putting out absolute trash these days. Um,
Well, that's what my argument always been. Modern Hollywood is the civil service of entertainment.
yeah,
It's the fast food chain of entertainment. It's not a restaurant. It's not a small business. It's not with people, everyone who's on board. If you work for a small business, you know that if you don't get the next order, the doors close.
yeah,
So there's that kind of idea that you're working together, irrespective of your position, to make it happen because you know that every order that comes through, everything that every bit of business done is keeping the doors open. The doors
mm,
staying open means your next pay salary check.
yeah,
But if you work for like a multinational, you have a different mentality because yeah, they can take a loss of so many millions. That's fine. I don't need to worry.
yeah,
As long as I justify my position and just do what I need to do, the bare minimum, I'm fine. Civil service, taxpayers always going to pay money, so I don't need to really care.
mm,
You know, and that's what Hollywood's become today. It's just that sort of the money's always going to be there, no problem. Now, I think they're starting to find out that that's not the case.
yeah.
And there's
Because
a reason they hate YouTubers because this platform has changed the game.
yeah,
And
because
other,
there's been a big increase in people on YouTube, and doing their own reviews for everything these days, isn't it? It's um, you know, my YouTube channel is called Steve Reviews Everything, and I literally do review it. If I've got a grumble about something, the latest one is GWR, Great Western Railway, and how they cancelled my 8 o'clock train the other week on a Saturday morning, but didn't tell us which train we had to get. And And then when I tried to delay repay, they actually said to me, "Well, there was no train." And I said, "Well, I know there was no train because you cancelled it." Well, we can't pay you if the journey wasn't scheduled. I said, "Well, it was scheduled." But anyway, I won't go there. But I review everything. Steve reviews
Yeah,
everything.
but that's
I've
what
done
people gravitate towards. The want, and
done
even
the
back then, if you think bringing it back to this movie, there was a sense of people being genuine. Now, whether it was the case and what stuff was going on behind closed doors, who knows? Because obviously, there's always production problems, and we've seen that with some movies we've looked at. But there was a feeling of, I genuinely want to make a good product. I genuinely want you to come back as a customer,
yeah.
and that's why it got so much support, and that's why they're just sort of, like I said, apathy to death, modern art in general.
Going back to Terence Fisher, you know, he must have been a brilliant director because they kept on saying, "Well, make another one, make another one, make
Yeah,
another
but
one."
that was it. A production company. Here's our horror director. Here's our adventure. Because Hammer didn't just do horror. Hammer Productions did swashbuckling adventures, crime
Yeah,
thrillers. It was a massive company.
but how many like studios these days do you know will have the same director for the same genre? They'll get a successful film out of a successful director, and then the next one they'll change director, and you think, well, hold on, Silence of the Lambs, wasn't it? You had was it Jonathan Demme did one, and then they changed director, and it all went to pieces.
I give up. Actually, the prequel for that. No way they did the prequel.
Red Dragon.
No, the one after Red Dragon, Hannibal Rising.
Hannibal. Oh, it was terrible.
That just put me off that entire franchise.
Yeah.
That
Um,
legitimately put me off the sounds of, and I love the first one. Uh, Hannibal, the second one was all right. Red Dragon was all right. I mean, they were watchable, but that prequel just put me off. It was so bad.
yeah, Silence of the Lambs was Jonathan Demme, who also directed Philadelphia. Um, the second one was Ridley Scott. Now,
Ugh.
Ridley Scott is a brilliant director. He's just not a,
Was
yeah, he's just not
was
a, well, he's not, I don't think he does very well at horror because Hannibal, I read the book and the book is fantastic. Um, but Red Dragon, who was that
he's
one
too
again?
far up his own arse. He's working on Gladiator too. Like, what the hell? I've been panning Ridley Scott lately over a lot of news articles I've been reading out. Oh my god, he's a dick.
The Red Dragon was Brett Ratner, who
Mm.
did oh, the Jackie Chan film with Chris Rock,
Oh,
Rush
Rush
Hour.
Hour.
He did those. So he went from being a comedy director to doing Red Dragon. I quite enjoyed the Red Dragon,
Yeah, that was, like I said, they were watchable.
but let's see. Yeah, and then we had the absolutely terrible Hannibal Rising.
Yeah,
Um,
that just ruined it.
who that director is, I don't know. Peter Weber, never heard of him.
But
Uh,
that's what happens. It'll be interesting as we go along this series to see, does it fall down the same? Because obviously at some point Hammer ran out of steam because it effectively disappeared until the Woman in Black.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting as we go down this road to see, can we start
Yeah.
seeing the signs of the
Why?
wheels coming off?
Why did people's views change? Did you know? You just don't know, do you?
No, and things aren't talked about as much back then as they are
No.
now. I mean, we don't have the outtakes. Like, could you picture as a bit of a comedy blooper? Like, I'm making the joke about uh Karis having the dustpan and brush, but could you picture Christopher Lee going around in his mummy costume, dusting the tomb as an outtake
Yeah, it would be. Yeah,
and being deadpan about it? Do you know what I mean?
no. It's, you just don't know what would go on, because I imagine there was super chemistry between Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. You can
Well, they were
imagine
still
that.
friends right up until the end. Like there's photographs of them, like
But
well
I
past.
think their humor would be more gentlemanly,
Mm-hmm.
the two of them. But yeah. Mm.
The only time I saw Christopher Lee get excited was he used to collect special forces badges.
Yeah.
That was his thing. So special forces units throughout the world, and he was on a German panel show, and it was the second or third time. He come back to the same show a couple of times over, and it'd been a couple of years since he'd been back on, and he had mentioned about wanting to get a particular. It was like a German police special unit badge,
Yeah.
and the production company went and searched it out for him for when he came back on
Yeah.
and gave it to him, and he you actually see him for the first time. He's always so deadpan and stoic.
Yeah.
You actually see him get giddy because he's like, I have been looking for this for years, thank you, and just, complete
Yeah.
nerd in that respect.
Yeah.
It's like, somebody's stamp collection or coin collection that, he collected cat badges.
Yeah.
He was that sort of nerd that that was his thing. And it really, unless you're in that sort of collector's sphere, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know, no.
And if it didn't matter, I mean, they'd be valuable to him, but nobody else. And that was just his thing. And I just remember that interview where they showed him, gave him the cap badge, they'd sourced it for him. And he was like giddy with excitement
Yeah.
because that was finishing off. It was a particular part of his wall. And he
Yeah.
said, I've got the spot here for it. I've been waiting that one day I would get it. And that's where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, what the portray on screen stuff, yeah, there was that, but there was no need to be displaying everything.
No.
So you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't get those sort of outtakes. It'd still be funny to think about. Would it be possible?
Yeah, I imagine there weren't many. They didn't have to do many takes of things with these two actors. I imagine they were the sort of actors who wanted to get it right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Second time at a push.
Yep. Well, that was sure. When we're doing the Peter Jackson series, we're actually talking about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson made Christopher Lee do like 23 takes of a scene.
Yeah.
From different, because that's the way he does. He wants it this angle, that angle, speed up this line, that, and he actually went to Ian McKellen's like, I don't think I'm too good at this. He's made me do 23 takes. What am I doing wrong? He's actually getting upset.
Yeah.
That he was failing, and Ian McKellen told him, "That's all right. I did 30 takes the other day. That's just the way it is."
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of them running jokes that he's like, "What?"
It's director's mind, isn't it? It's how they've each got their own niche and.
Yeah, but the likes of Christopher Lee, he's not used to doing more than 3 takes of anything because that's they do the preparation beforehand to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a really good movie, and the dialogue in it and the interaction, like when Banning goes to confront Muhammad.
Yeah.
And you always have that, I expect you to die, Mr. Bond moment, of the the supervillain and the hero meeting.
Yeah.
And once again, the Mummy was a secondary character.
Yeah.
Because the antagonist was Muhammad. He was the one he cast a spell. He's the one that traveled. He's the one acting revenge.
Yeah. But it makes you think if that is an intentional thing, because Terence Fisher tends to do that a lot in his movies, and he did with Frankenstein. The monster, and that was really just the background, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah. But the fact that the cast, somebody like Christopher Lee, didn't be the background character, just kind of.
Yeah, but Terence Fisher tends to focus on the characters rather than the whole. Let's just focus on what the film's supposed to be about, the Mummy or Frankenstein. It's not. He brings in all the sort of side things from the characters. He's a character director, isn't he? He uses the whole cast as opposed to the theme.
Yeah, so there's nobody like just hanging about in the background. Even the extras were front and center.
Yeah.
Like you saw the tomb workers. You see the like
The
even
two
the
delivery
courier,
guys, you know.
the two courier drivers who were getting, they had their own scene in the pub. On
Yeah.
what on what movie did they need that scene?
Yeah.
Really, it should have just been them driving along, hitting the bump,
But
falling off. But
it was something that sticks in your mind as well.
yeah,
They were like Laura and Hardy in the pub, weren't they?
yeah, and you got to know them. And then when
Yeah.
they're explaining to the police, just matter of fact about it, and you kind of got to know them as characters. Like, and they were
Yeah.
only in it for one purpose, one scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he put that effort in. And once again, this is not a 2 hour long movie. It's an hour and a half, the normal standard length of a movie.
Yeah.
And yet, with all these characters, we know their backstories, we know who they are, we know their motivations. The plot moves forward, and you're enjoying yourself, even though you've seen this how many times. You're still sticking on again and watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Movies like that anymore, and this isn't even nostalgia because we're picking out the mistakes as well.
Yeah. It's movies these days are a bit like the. Do you know the 3D cameras? We got a
Oh yes, yeah.
DJI thing, and you've got a setting on it called the Me setting, and the camera will just follow you around, and so you just stick it over your shoulder or something, or in front of you, and it concentrates solely on you wherever you go. And I think that is actors of today. Me. Let's have the me setting on the DJI Pro, you know, and
More of an us. That's
the me rather than
everything's so out of sync now between what people are producing and what people actually want. It's bad. And we're seeing it in horror now. Like I'm covering a lot of news articles, and it's depressing to read it because we're not going further forward, we're going further backwards.
yeah.
And horror is a genre which, like, this'll all pass. You know, eventually Hollywood will stop making the movies; they'll move on to something else. But they've burnt out everything. But because horror is so big a genre, we'll weather it as opposed to other franchises just absolutely die. Like sci-fi and fantasy is basically dead now. Nobody cares. I think we're lucky, but we can't be complacent either. We'll have to. That's why we'll have to highlight these movies more of the fact of here's how we were able to tell stories. Here's how social issues were broached, and dealt with. Here's how you had various cast members and they were treated equally. They were given their own agency in the movie. They had their part to play. Nobody was just shoved in the back with a big spotlight on the main actor or actress. You know that.
Yeah.
And we're able to make enjoyable movies that we can still watch today. Where movies now are getting forgotten. Like you leave a cinema and you've forgotten what you've watched.
Yeah, and you can never remember the name of the film. Oh, I saw a film the other day. What was it called? Oh God, what was it called? You know.
Yeah, you've basically forgotten. You've watched The Shiny Lights. You've seen it 20 times, and you're like, you're right. But
I think
there was
Hollywood, their own worst enemy, because Hollywood are going to cause the downfall of the cinema, and they're going to have to move ahead with the times if that's the case, and you know, bring in streaming, etc. It's a bit like Sky TV. Everyone used to have a dish. Well, now recently Sky's gone on to this streaming business, haven't they? So they've adapted to a certain degree. They still show crap, but you know, they've gone away from. And there was something about cinema attendances have gone down again for the you know, for this. I think it's the fourth year running, something like that.
Nobody cares. There's no excitement.
They were expecting it to go up after COVID, and it didn't.
Because the quality of filmmaking has been going down. You know, the two directly correlate.
This is where I'm saying Hollywood are going to be are going to be their own downfall, really, because they're producing crap and sending out crap, hoping that some people will go to the cinema to see it, and people won't. People will rather sit at home, and if they think a film is good, they'll wait to see it. Especially with the cost
3
of
weeks later, yeah, on streaming,
movies on
because
streaming.
you don't even wait that long.
And this is where the same cinema could be gone. I think you give it 10, 15 years, you won't have a cinema.
No.
I
Maybe
think
an independent one as a novelty, but the
know,
ticket prices will be like 20 quid minimum will go.
yeah.
And I've said this as well. They're not even making use of anniversaries to show some of the classics. They did it there this year with The Crow. But for example, Lord of the Rings, let's bring it back to that. They've missed the 25th anniversary to
Yeah,
re-release three of the biggest movies of all time.
yeah,
The most successful trilogy, bar none.
yeah,
And they missed the chance to re-release it on the 25th anniversary to capture an entire new audience for that experience. This didn't bother. And then they sort of half-arsed released it a year after the third. They missed the whole point. If there
yeah.
was money not spent creating a new movie, they didn't have to do a remake, rehash. All they had to do was get the hype train going, release it, make it an event.
Life of Brian. They did an anniversary on their 40th, and everyone who went had just a little envelope full of postcard stills. And tickets were expensive, but they had people queuing to get tickets, and so much so that down in Plymouth View, they actually had to have some more screens open for the anniversary thing, and they landed up rather than just have it on the one big screen, they had three other screens that they scheduled in this anniversary thing for, and they had two showings on each. So you had, whereas it was supposed to be 9 o'clock in the evening, they had one at like 6:30 then, and one at 9 in four screens, and that was an anniversary. And that, Life of Brian. I mean, who'd have thought of that? But like you said, that they should be showing Lord of the Rings.
They should have this all worked out. They should have a plan and then supplement the new movies with the nostalgia.
Any film by M. Night Shyamalan, they should do every year an anniversary of his films.
All right. You'll be on your own for that one. You have plenty of seats. You'll have to buy the entire cinema because
I'm waiting for his box.
You crack on with that. If that's your thing.
Wait, I'll buy you a copy for your birthday.
But look at these movies. Why aren't there's a whole bring back the Saturday matinee, Hammer Horror.
Yeah, and the old ABC cinema in Plymouth, one of the sort of independent type things. They used to have sort of Pensioners' Day afternoon on a Tuesday afternoon, and but one week they'd show, say, Gone with the Wind,
mm-hmm.
and but they used to get requests for films, and you could have Gone with the Wind one week, and then the following week you might have Frankenstein or Dracula, and then the following week it would be Sound of Music, and they'd have no specific genre that they'd show because they relied on people actually saying, "Oh, used to get the same group." I used to go. I was on a pensioner, but it was only £3 a ticket.
Yeah, that's.
If I had the Tuesday afternoon off, I used to go.
They could do that easily if they wanted. During the week, flip a. Like I said, bring back the matinees or the
old ice cream lady with her thing in.
Yeah.
They even brought that back for the afternoon. Which is brilliant.
Well, it's we are what we are. The people in charge that have bought all the rights for this stuff are the people in charge. Like Warner Brothers own this or have distribution or something for it now, and the state of that company.
Yeah. I think one of the downfalls of will be the interference of companies like Amazon, and they try to. They have these Amazon originals, don't they, on their own Amazon Prime, and most of them are absolutely terrible. The average IMDb rating for a film that is shown on Amazon Prime, right, is about 2.6.
And they own that platform and they police it like mad. If they don't like 1-star reviews,
yeah, it's absolutely.
so it's probably worse than what they're actually showing because they police that site.
We always watch the first 5 minutes. If this film description looks good, no, it's crap. First 5 minutes, a film's got to hit you as soon as it opens. It's got to hit you.
You got to be invested.
Grab your attention, a bit like a conveyor belt, isn't it? It's if you don't see anything you like on the sushi belt, you walk off and go to the Chinese, don't you? So we always put good things on the sushi belt, and it's Amazon Prime films. Since they've had the introduction of both Freeview, they've obviously lost money, didn't they, on a big production, and that they are buying all the rubbish films. Average rating, like I said, 2.6, IMDb out of 10, and they are appalling. It's like something I could make on my iPhone in about 10 minutes out the back garden. It's yeah.
Yeah, God, we had Cameron and I did one off Amazon, and honestly, I regret. Like, I want my time back.
Yeah,
it was awful. I don't do much off Amazon anymore.
I mean, this one was on Prime.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only reason yeah.
Oh well. Anyway, we have
all in all, I another one of the films that I loved. I absolutely thought this was brilliant, and I thought the story was there, the acting was there, and it kept true to the stories of the mummy stories back from the 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
It stayed true to those there. But yeah,
and still watchable nearly 75 years later.
Yeah,
that's some going.
And it kept the team together. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Terence Fisher, the director, even Jimmy Sangster, the writer. He does a lot of the writing of Hammer Horror as well.
Well, they definitely had a formula. There was definitely an aesthetic. You knew you were watching a Hammer Horror, and that's part of it, keeping the team together.
Yeah.
You don't see that today because it changes from movie to movie because they all start getting greedy and their agents start trying to stick their arm in for more, and the negotiations then they get written out, and it's just a mess. Like I said, it's a mess now, and you can see the better era of filmmaking.
Yeah.
But hey ho, at least we've got this to look back on. Yeah, I can't remember this. We've got The Man Who Could Cheat Death next.
The Man Who Could Cheat Death.
Yeah.
Who's in that one again?
I'll need to look it up. I've just got it on the list here. Yeah, I can't remember that one. That's a wee quirky one.
Man Who
Could Cheat Death, 1959.
Could Cheat Death. Oh, it's just Anton Diffring, Hazel Cook, Christopher Lee's in it. Yeah, Christopher Lee replaces a gland with that of a living person. It's terrible, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And guess who the director and the writers are?
Terence Fisher.
Terence Fisher, Jimmy Sangster.
Yeah, there you go. So
expecting a good one on that one, then?
Yeah, it'll be fun. I can't remember this one at all, so it'll be interesting to see it.
I remember it. I recognised the guy in it, Anton Diffing. I didn't know that was his name, but yeah, be worth a bash, wouldn't it?
Yep. But I think so. There you go. Steve, as always, mate, thanks for coming on. Great to talk about these and go back in time and look how cinema used to be when we used to enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone who turned up in the chat there, thanks very much. Always good to have you. Nice to see we've got more people lurking there. Don't be afraid to say hello. We'll say hello back, honestly. We don't bite much. And yeah, obviously, we'll get that shagged up. So keep an eye on the channel. And just even say, until next time, keep up the channel, do the type of things. And remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.